What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys so much for watching the show. Wanted to talk to you about our friends over at Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. This app is really easy to use. You just pick more or less on a few player stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your cash on a single lineup. Best of all, Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. Use the promo code PFF and download the app now. Lions drafted Tyleik Williams in the first round, Tate Ratledge in the second, wide receiver Isaac Tesla in the third, and in order to do that, they gave up both third-round picks next year to do so. So they traded up with their third-round pick. They gave up those two future third-round picks to go up and get Isaac Tesla there. So a heavy price for him, but somebody whose skill set does complement their receiver room well. So we'll talk about that in a second. Miles Frazier in the fifth, Ahmed Hassanin in the sixth. So two good trench players there. Special teams and depth safety demon Dan Jackson from Georgia, and then another Georgia player, wide receiver Dominic Lovett, to round things out in the seventh round. Our staff gave the Detroit Lions a B-. What do you think here, Dalton?
I think that's about right, but I do think it's worth noting that, look, some teams draft athleticism, some teams draft speed, some teams draft intangibles. The Lions draft toughness. I think it feels like we come out of every draft and we go, those are Dan Campbell guys. And what that really means is they got a group of really tough football players, right? You talk about Tyleik Williams had the 8th best run defense grade in the country last year, and you've got Aleem McNeil coming off a season-ending injury. You add Williams into a rotation with McNeil and Reeder, and you've got a dynamic run defense unit on the inside. Tate Ratledge is somebody, just a solid, sturdy, and athletic guard from Georgia who was one of the best pass protectors in the country over the last 3 years. And I think what it tells me, between Christian Mahogany's potential emergence at the end of last year and Tate Ratledge now being drafted in the second round, I think their left guard, Graham Glasgow, is really fighting for his job here in the preseason. 49.8 pass blocking grade last year. If you're looking for a stable pass protector, an athlete who can really start to fit into the run scheme as time goes on, I think Tate Ratledge and Christian Mahogany both might be starting at guard come the 2025 season starting in September. And then I got to be honest, you look at the rest of these guys. Isaac Tesla, athletic, but the idea is he can make all those tough catches over the middle. Miles Frazier, I think, is a flexible guy who's a tough guy on the inside and even at times at tackle for LSU. Ahmad Hassanin with the former combat sports and CrossFit background. Dan Jackson, like you mentioned, they just draft heart and toughness and guys who are physically going to give you that attitude that Dan Campbell wants, right? So, look, I don't think it's the best class in the league. I think a B- is about right when it comes to the talent of it, but they got players that fit the culture of the Lions, and they're constantly recycling and building that culture with younger players that fit into it, right? So I can't blame them at all for the draft that they did. I was still surprised that they took Tyleik Williams in the first round, that Williams ended up a first-round pick, but I get the idea behind what the Lions are trying to do because they're always trying to be the more physical team on the field.
Yeah, Tyleik was overdrafted in terms of like my draft board, but I really don't hate it for the Lions. I think it's totally fine getting him at the back end of the first round for what the Lions want to do. I think the same about Tate Ratledge. I love the addition of Miles Frazier as well. I really like Ahmed Hassanin. So all of their defensive line additions, I agree, are very Lions to a T. And so I grade this pretty favorably. I gave it a B+. I could have put it in the A range, but for as much as I liked Isaac Tesla, I believe was a top 100 player for me. He was one of the receivers who I got to his film late, but I really like what he's able to do. I think he's a hell of a blocker. He's obviously a great athlete from what we saw at the Combine. He's got super reliable hands, and you mentioned that toughness that he plays with. So I think he plays a big slot with Detroit, but I really think he could play anywhere. It feels like they drafted him and prioritized him because they believe that he could play as an X wide receiver. Now, the part where you sort of lose me a little bit on the value, and the reason why I think it's a B+. I don't think you could go much lower than a B+, to be honest with you, but I go B+ here because you did move up. Now, you moved up 32 spots, so you gave up a third rounder next year in order to do it, and then you gave up another third rounder to do it. And I thought in my head, oh, okay, well, they gave up both of these third round picks. They're going to get one back because of Aaron Glenn going over to be a head coach, because when another team takes one of your coordinators and makes them a head coach as a minority candidate, you get a third round pick back. Apparently that was one of them. That was what. So I thought they had 2 third round picks, and they knew that they were going to get one back for Aaron Glenn. But I've since learned that one of those third round picks that they traded for next year is the Aaron Glenn third-round pick. So they don't have any third-round picks next year. You really better hope that Isaac Tesla is that dude for you. And they can believe that. That's fine. But even with them moving up from 102 to 70 to make this happen, so it's a big jump, it's a hindsight thing. But Jalen Royals was picked 133, well beyond the 102 where you were currently picking. Elokayo Maynor specifically was picked at 136, so much lower than the 102 where you were currently picking before the trade up. So, Pat Bryant was picked over Isaac Tesla as well, and I think if you wanted a bigger X wide receiver to be able to play on the line of scrimmage and block his ass off, like Pat Bryant sort of does that for you, but he obviously was not going to make it to 102 because he was picked 4 picks later after Tesla at 70. He was picked at 74. So I don't want to be too harsh on this one. Giving up 2 third-round picks next year is rich to make this happen. They jumped a good amount of ways to get there, so I get that. But it's really the fact that, hey, I like Tesla. I think he could be good for them. Elokayo Maynor was still on the board, who I had ranked higher than Tesla. Jalen Royals was ranked higher than Tesla. I don't think Pat Bryant was, but they're along the same vein, and it was just a pretty price to go up and get this guy. So he better be the guy here in this class, or I think we're going to look back at this one in a little bit of a hindsight. But I do think that the rest of the draft very much fits what the Detroit Lions want to do, and I'm always going to look at your drafts favorably if I think that the scouting staff and the coaching staff were in sync on the players that they selected.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about round 3 and beyond in those trades, you do talk about, okay, just if you want that guy, just go get him. Find a way to go get him. That's what they did with Tesla. And the other fun stat I like on him, too, is 100 career targets at Arkansas, which isn't all that many considering the couple of years he was playing, but 100 career targets, 0 drops. His hands are like vice grips, and you think about him taking all those intermediate in cuts that are in that Lions offense and just catching everything over the middle. So I think that's what they're looking for. Still obviously have Tim Patrick, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He doesn't have to play a major role early on, but there's something there athletically to develop.